if you get to a certain level, there's no way you can escape the heat. Like you're gonna get it. And Steph had to endure it. And I think now they come out on the other side of it. I think he's getting the respect now that he wasn't getting a few years ago. But to your point, it's still not commensurate with his ability, right? Like, and can you imagine in 30 years or 20 years, there's going to be some youngsters coming up, after Trae Young, right? And they're going to be talking about he's the greatest shooter ever, and you and I are going to be somewhere like with gray everywhere talking about, man, y'all know nothing about no Steph Curry, right? Like that dude never missed. He went a whole month without missing. Like we just, that's to me what Steph is going to get his full just due. But like it's kind of how we talk about Drazen Petrovic now, right? It's like Drazen Petrovic used to pull up from the other 3-point line, like so he'll get that. But you're right, he doesn't get that reverence, but he does. You know where he gets it? Oddly enough, the tide changed because LeBron started giving it to him, and that was a big difference. Mm-hmm. Now, as far as Klay, we're gonna have to argue on this one. Okay. Klay ain't on no top 75. I'm sorry, okay. I love Klay. That's my play cousin, man. Like we Thompsons. I'm with you on Dwight Howard. I'm not putting Klay in over Grant Hill. Grant Hill was an absolute monster when he played. Now, he doesn't have the resume because of injuries, but if you just said, man, who you taking? I'm taking Grant Hill. And Klay's curse is he is the sidekick. He's never led the war. He's never led a team by himself, and he's never had to. Now, he is, you know where Klay is, and this is probably the best you can say about Klay. He's our version of Scottie Pippen, the guy who is the perfect number 2. So much so, he will never get his full credit because he was number 2. But man, that number 1 dude is like, I can't win without him, right? Like he is so perfect to be next to Steph in that way. Now, if you put him on another team, I think he'd obviously be a great player, right? He'd obviously be able to, have a great career. But I don't know if they'd win. Like he just got a ability to handle. Klay don't pass the ball. Like you know what I'm saying? Klay just like, when Kevin Durant came, he like, I'm not changing anything. And this is Kevin Durant. So I see him as the modern version of Scottie Pippen. I mean, just incredible, clearly an elite player, clearly a Hall of Famer. And he just so happened to be next to an all-time great, and he made that all-time great better, which is probably even a greater compliment. But, there's a lot of guys. I mean, look, you could take some guys off the list. I don't know why I never watched Walt Bellamy. I don't know. Was he nice? I have no idea, right? But I do feel like there's a lot of guys who don't get enough credit just because of our recency bias, and we just don't have the footage. So I'd want to investigate those guys first before I just anoint Klay, because like as I wrote in the book that I just released, like one of the things that really stood out to me was how, man, we so disrespectful to our legends, and we spend so much time pitting them against each other that we don't really see how they actually stack upon each other. Like one generation kind of builds on what the previous one did. So like you could say it's better, but you literally don't have any of this without George Mikan, right? Like you don't have any of this without Bill Russell. So it feels more profitable for the community of basketball and sports if we spend more time talking about how great they were instead of killing them for playing with itty bitty shorts and 8 teams.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on, just quickly, this is kind of off Warriors, but Damian Lillard making that list? That's the big one of the modern era players that was on there that, people were kind of blowing up about. How do you feel about his entry into the NBA 75? I mean, I love Dame. I think everyone loves Dame. I don't want to
hold on. Don't start with this. Don't start with this. Where's Damian Lillard from?
Oakland.
Should Dame be on the 75? Absolutely. Where's he from? Where is he from? Nah, so like if Klay should be on, Dame should be on. Like I just think it's a different monster when you have to carry a team. And even though they haven't won a title, I mean, they went to the Western Conference Finals. They're a 50-win team every year. Like Dirk is a monster. Like, and they eventually won a title. And I think if Dame does that, it'll kind of change that narrative about him. But if Dirk don't win that title, is he still not Dirk? Like, we still would be like, yo, that dude was bad. And obviously that takes some out of it. But to me, it's just like you get extra bonus points if you carry the team. Like if the scout is pointing to you first. To me, that's more difficult. Now, again, just to be 100 with it, if we start examining some of these players who we often forget about, Dame would definitely be one of the recent ones who got to go, right? If we start finding I don't know, man. This is why I wish my father was around. He died 20 years ago, but he would have been like, "What? You didn't see?" You know what I'm saying? Like, I need that OG in the barbershop just to say, "Man, y'all don't know what y'all talking about. This guy was, X." So I know we spend a lot of time having fun at their expense, right? We've seen the videos of Bob Cousy like dribbling with his palm, right? Like we're like, man, this dude ain't that good. So it's kind of easy, but man, it was some real life hoopers, man. Like it was some monsters, and I just hope we don't forget about them in that process.
Yeah, I think it's cool to see how the game's evolved, like seeing that older footage too, to realize what this has turned into. And definitely, I mean, you have to weigh like greatness in their era as well. Yeah. That has to factor in, I think.
So who's in first for you, Chris Paul or Damian Lillard?
I'm gonna have to go with Chris Paul for myself.
So you just hating Oakland. You just hating on Oakland. Okay, I see what's happening.
No hate on Oakland for sure. I used to be near the Bay Area growing up.
No, I'm just messing
no
with
hate
you. But
on Oakland.
Essentially,
sure.
Like Chris Paul's done it for longer.
Yeah.
And he has Chris Paul, what's so great about Chris Paul is he has been an elite point guard in multiple eras.
Yes.
Right? Remember, he was like the truest of true point guards back when you had to be the floor general, right? And all that. And we actually, when the last time you seen assist to turnover ratio, like on a box, like nobody even talks about that. That used to be a major stat, right? You had to be at least 3-1. So like he's transitioned and at every level. Now it's like, yo, your point guard got to get buckets. And Chris Paul can get buckets. So he's done it at the game changed and Chris Paul's still at the top. But so I would give Chris Paul the nod too, just, despite my Oakland bias. But when you start talking about accomplishments, like Dame is right there. They both, I think, Chris Paul just went to the finals, right? So he got a step further, but
yeah, he's had like 7 more years than Dame, something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, it's like
some of this is timing too.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's about the same. Like so. Yeah, it's all like it's great to talk about. It's incredible to talk about it. But really, how good was Dolph Schayes? Like, do we know? Who knows?
He was.
I don't know if Bill Sharma was good. Like, who knows? That's what makes it interesting. Is we don't know it. We don't know half these dudes on this list.
True. Well, another thing on this list was, when they released the top 50 players, Shaq was controversial, them adding him. So you have to think like back then it was, according to a lot of people. I mean, I was in grade school when they released that list, but according to people that were actually covering,
no, it was hot. No, it was hot. Yeah, people were hot.
So I'm just wondering now with Luka, like it's very apparent that he's going to be top 50. I think when it's all said and done, you take a flyer on Luka, or you say it's too early.
Too early.
Yeah.
At that point, like when was the top 50 released? At that point, had Shaq won a title?
I don't know. That was, I believe, like one of Jordan's last years, like close to like the second dynasty.
He was still with Orlando at the time.
I believe. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. They made the finals. I mean, he got cooked by a king.
Yeah.
And the thing about Shaq at the time, which was hard to fathom, he was so physically just domineering. It almost didn't feel fair, right? It felt like, I don't know, Manute Bol being 7'5" or whatever. It's like, bro, you just tall. You know what I'm saying? Like, it almost, we heard this type of thinking when James Harden said, Giannis, man, you just 7 foot, you could dunk. Like if I was 7 foot, like where you kind of say this person doesn't have skill, they're just a physical specimen. That was kind of the book on Shaq, but we hadn't seen nothing like that before, ever. We've seen nothing like that. He was like Mike Tyson of basketball, right? Luka, we've seen before. Like, he's kind of a mosh. So I'm with you. I think Luka's gonna be there. I probably wouldn't have put him on. I mean, you put Luka over Klay?
I wouldn't.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's just tough, man.
Yeah.
You know the biggest robbery in his whole list that nobody talk about? The biggest snub that I haven't heard mentioned once, which is a travesty, and it shows the lack of basketball knowledge in America. How is Paul George not on this list? Paul George, top 75. No, I'll just play.
Like, whew, spicy take.
I know.
Like, he cannot be on Hoopsology. He cannot be on. I love Paul George, though, but yeah, no, I'm
Me too.